You've gone down this path already. You've seen everything that it has to offer. Yet, for some reason, you're still pulled back to the same spot where you started. You trek back through the same familiar building that you're used to. You still have to kill some of the same enemies that you're even used to seeing. Just this time, you can do it with a familiar friend. Oh, who cares about the goddamn nostalgia shit? Let's just go ahead and shoot some guns. Hey guys, it's Beard Grizzly, and I think about the only thing I was missing from that intro was some Elvish chanting. Anyway, we're going to sit and compare a couple of guns here today. The Khavostov is our major point in question, and we're going to be taking a look at the Assembly 2, Grim Citizen 3, and Antipodal hindsight. One thing I should make reference to, the Assembly 2 is the only one on this list that is a vendor roll. But let's go ahead and take a look at the rolls as we have them right now. Khavostov, should be pointed out, always has the lightweight perk on, so this will always grant you +2 character agility while it is equipped. The current roll that we have is going up against the Assembly 2, so we built it to match this. Automatic with the modernized scope, braced frame, counterbalance, and 900 RPM. Again, a challenger on the list is the Assembly 2. This one has Red Dot Aura 2, Quick Draw, Perfect Balance, and Counterbalance. What we're trying to aim for here is a stability that'll end up trying to match the Khavostov, but still doing that higher rate of fire and just straight being a bullet hose. I think overall this gun does a fair job of combining itself, but its stats are still higher in a few places than the Khavostov. I'll be pointing out each gun's ammo capacity as well, without any extra perks or anything like that, but the Khavostov in this configuration holds 639 rounds. To compare the two guns, Khavostov's stability is definitely noticeable. It is something that really does carry the weapon, and it allows for it to basically be a contender in the way that it is. And that definitely helps the gun with its largest perk, of course, being an exotic, that it can be customized however you'd like it to. The configuration I have here is just to make sure that it gets as close to the Assembly 2 as I possibly could. But one thing that I should definitely point out about the Khavostov is its overall damage. The range is definitely felt as a bit of a problem here. Khavostov's lack of range actually cuts into the amount of damage that you do on a target that's a little further away from you, and honestly, more often than not, I just found myself going ham and bringing out the super or something else to end up doing the damage for me. But being that this takes up an exotic slot, this made things a little difficult for me with what I needed to choose. The Assembly 2 I didn't have this problem with. I could go ahead and run any kind of exotic heavy that I wanted to, and that was definitely kind of welcome. I ended up using the Trespasser instead, however, and I definitely like the coupling of any kind of sidearm with an automatic rifle. After blowing up all the Curse Thrall, Assembly 2's maximum ammo counter is 719 rounds. This is actually a difference of 80 rounds, and it's about a magazine and a half more than what Khavostov supplies you in the same kind of configuration. My overall question comes down to this. Why? One thing that has been brought up within the community recently has actually been from Patrick Casey over at Planet Destiny, and I will actually let that play right now.
It's a multi-tool that's a jack of all trades but a master of none. You can absolutely still use this gun in PvE, it kills stuff just fine, and doesn't really inhibit you from doing so. But in my opinion, whatever exotic weapon that you are using should provide more utility than just killing stuff at the same rate a legendary would.
I want to thank Patrick Casey for giving me the inspiration to do this video and really compare these guns as best I could. What his video, and I hope this one does the same, is show where Khavostov is in terms of being a weapon right now, because it's not in a good place. The terrible thing is that you're really not killing something at the same rate of a legendary. Khavostov is actually worse. The next gun we're going to take a look at is the Grim Citizen 3, and this is of course a package roll from Shaxx. Red Dot Ores is going to be the sight that we'll use with focus fire, hand-loaded, and hidden hand. This is definitely quite a bit different from the Khavostov that we'll be using, but overall we tried to make it about the same, with the modernized scope, fully automatic, rifled barrel, counterbalance, and 450 RPM. Again, we're trying to make that thing look as close as we can, but no way, Jose. The Grim Citizen is better in stats all around than the Khavostov, and it pretty much makes it look like a little baby's toy. Of course, the Grim Citizen is going to fire a little slower with that focused fire option, but it definitely points something out that I think needs to be a call to attention on auto rifles again, and that is their damage. We have once again been sitting in another year here where auto rifles have suffered a pretty substantial amount, and having something like focus fire where our damage is increased but our rate of fire is drastically slowed only gets us to a point where we can start to contend with some of the other guns. More on that later. The Ultra that we'll have up here in the building is one that does take a lot of shots to drop, and of course my accuracy isn't exactly the best thing in the world while I'm sitting here trying to shoot it. The stagger point on these mobs is pretty high, and that's one thing that I think needs to be pointed out. The other guys have been able to go ahead and stagger them pretty often with their pulse rifles that they have, and the small extra counterfire that I have isn't really helping too much. The maximum amount of ammo that the Grim Citizen can hold is 355 rounds without any kind of extra bonus perks on armor or otherwise. Right now I'm using an auto rifle that has better overall range than the Khavostov does. If I switch to rangefinder, I lose stability. If I switch to counterbalance, I lose range. I can't win. Meanwhile, I have better all-around stats on a rifle that I got from Shax. I'm not saying that this role is going to be something that everyone will get a hold of, obviously, but it is something that is available as an auto rifle from him. Khavostov in this configuration definitely still hits pretty hard. Its rate of fire is definitely noticeable, and of course it fits more with the build that we're used to with auto rifles of its class. However, let's go ahead and call attention to that damage again, and yes, I will pop numbers when all's said and done. Its range does end up suffering, but at the mid to short ranges you can definitely tell that it does some pretty good work. It starts to cut into major troops pretty quickly, but it still has some problems, especially once you have a couple around you. Not every weapon handles very well when you have multiple targets surrounding you, but largely I find Khavostov just doesn't have that additional kick to really push through a lot of extra mobs, and this really does hurt it in the long run. I have to go ahead and point out again, this is an exotic rifle. This is a weapon that is taking up a very important slot in your armament. If Bungie truly feels that the +2 agility perk is that important, that I am gaining something additional from that, then so be it, I suppose. That's your exotic perk on this gun. But overall, when I can get a weapon that also has, say, +2 agility rolled from Shax or any other vendor, and can also have rifle barrel or counterbalance, or can also go ahead and choose from other perks, especially with the way that they have changed how weapons are given to us through packages, what is the point of this gun? Again, to show the amount that Khavostov can hold at maximum with its ammo is 301 plus 26, so 327 rounds. This is unfortunately once again lower by an entire magazine compared to the Grim Citizen, and again, I have to ask the question, why? It's not like No Time to Explain, where No Time to Explain gives you a ton of additional reserve ammo for no real reason. You just have it. It makes the gun seemingly worth it because it has that additional ammo. But right now, Khavostov is losing a lot of DPS because of even just that one clip. Not to mention its lack of stability and its lack of range compared to other auto rifles of its class. Alright guys, one more gun to compare in this shit show. Antipodal hindsight. The role in this antipodal hindsight is reflex, persistence, handlight stock, and counterbalance. This makes this gun all around just about as flexible as what a Khavostov has actually been touted as being. The Khavostov role that we'll still be using is modernized scope, automatic, braced frame, increased magazine of 450 RPM. The reason we're going for increased magazine here, by using braced frame, I need to unfortunately drop the magazine to 20. And 20 rounds in an auto rifle in the magazine? Are you kidding me? No. No thank you. No thank you whatsoever. If you want to make an exotic perk, give me braced frame with no magazine loss. That would be a damned exotic perk. Comparing the stats, of course, to Antipodal hindsight, Khavostov still comes up very short. Once again, just to bring up the ammo counter that Khavostov has, it has 327 rounds in any configuration with 450 RPM. I'm glad that I got Valos to Auric because it gives me a chance to sit down and start plinking at these guys with Khavostov a little more. And once again, I need to point out, full magazine being roasted into his arm, and it still takes a little while to get that stagger point to pop off. From the side, it's not too bad, and it does definitely seem to handle a little better than, say, Grim Citizen, but Grim Citizen also had focused fire. The lack of constant fire from focus fire makes it so that the stagger point is even higher on enemies like these, and it's not like Khavostov's doing much better against them. To bring up another point that was brought up by Patrick Casey in the Planet Destiny review, he had mentioned how any of these high-impact auto rifles don't necessarily have a place in Crucible. Well, I would argue they also don't really have a place in PvE either. Khavostov is, and I will steal a phrase, the poster child for why stuff like this doesn't necessarily work. And unfortunately, this is to a very high degree. When you lack range that some other weapons end up having, when you have stability that is available to you on other weapons, when I am given the option to essentially have an auto rifle that is legendary, be able to put something else in an exotic slot on my armament, and not have to play this game of, do I want more range or do I want more stability? What do you think I'm going to choose? We're talking about an exotic rifle that we have to go ahead and argue has a place in the world. I feel like I'm having bad juju flashbacks here. The current state of the Khavostov really is this hard thing for me to stop talking about, and I really think Bungie needs to reanalyze it. And to actually talk about the Antipodal hindsight, since I feel like I'm kicking a dead horse at this point. The Antipodal hindsight is definitely a strong gun in this configuration, and I definitely do recommend it if you are somebody that likes the high-impact auto rifle class. Its stability, its range, its impact, its rate of fire, they're all pretty easy to manage. And overall, it's definitely better than Khavostov. Can we just move on? The ammo counter on Antipodal hindsight is 387 rounds in total. This means it's a difference of 60 rounds that is held in reserve. Again, I have no additional armor perks on that increase my auto rifle ammo hold capacity. Nothing. This is base. This is flat. And here I am, sitting gimped with 2 less possible magazines that I can hold. Normal ammunition is not exactly something that's unplentiful in the long run. So overall, why is it worth talking about? Well, Bungie, if you're trying to make an exotic weapon, and you're trying to make it worthwhile for me to use in more than, say, I don't know, shooting around in the Plaguelands, I don't know why you're making it. Can I just be blunt at this point? If the gun itself doesn't feel exotic, if the gun itself feels like I need to manhandle something to make it worthwhile and worth my time, if overall I could equip a legendary that has better stats, why would I bother using Khavostov? What it seriously feels like is Bungie made the Khavostov for one intent purpose. Oh, welcome back to Rise of Iron. You've missed out on some exotics. Here's a free one, because this thing is so easy to get a hold of, and we made it absolute dog shit. I don't understand the theorem behind what they are doing with the Khavostov right now, and it is simply not worth that exotic in any simple regard. Lastly, we haven't taken a look at any of our wall tests yet, so we'll go ahead and do that right now. We're about winding down, and I know this has been a long video. I do appreciate you guys sticking with me through the whole of this, as it's been a very fun thing for me to put together, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it all the same. Guys, the Versus videos are not meant to realistically go into stats. Well, this gun has 70 in stability, this gun has 75. This gun has 30 in impact, this gun has 20. The series is meant to go ahead and show you one thing, and that's how a gun feels. A lot of times we can go ahead and theorize, but when all's said and done, it comes down to how it feels for you. If for you personally, Khavostov is one of the greatest guns that you've ever held, and you want to go ahead and use it all the time, by all means, do so. I may have berated Khavostov pretty hard, but if it is a gun that you guys enjoy, then use it. Have fun with it. Play with it to your heart's content. But just understand and know that if you end up getting a different auto rifle roll, it might be worth taking a look at it and comparing it to what you have currently with Khavostov. Chances are right, with the right perks, it's going to be a better roll anyway, and you might actually have a better time, and be able to fill up the exotic slot that you have with something that might be more situational. And that's the entire thing with any exotic. It's meant to exploit and meant to improve on situations that you are stuck in. Typically, I will run Thunderlord, or I will end up running Sleeper Simulant. I think both of these are very good ideas, and in terms of situational exploitation. Thunderlord's hidden perk, of course, makes it that if you precision shot a target, it'll blow up and of course damage nearby enemies. Most times, it kills nearby enemies. Sleeper Simulant simply does a ton of damage and is definitely worthwhile. And when a gun that sits in your primary slot takes up the ability for you to take advantage of those couple of good exotic perks, then the question is it really worth having in that exotic slot in your armament? To round out my point though, Khavostov does feel good. It feels like a nice weapon. But the perk trees, the stability, the range loss, everything else about it makes it very difficult for me to actually recommend. There are some big issues that auto rifles in general face, and I think that Khavostov in general showcases all of them very well. The footage in the background that you're seeing is from me using primarily a Hawksaw. Hawksaw has the lowest impact of most pulse rifles, and yet it does just as much, if not more damage, than most of the high-impact auto rifles that we've seen on the board. If that doesn't imply or show you some way that balance is completely screwed right now with auto rifles, I don't know what is. Guys, again, thank you so much for sticking around with me. I had a lot of fun putting this together, and I hope you guys did enjoy it. I would love to showcase the other 3 auto rifles against Khavostov, but I think the legendary weapons that we chose from today has emulated the point enough in showing that Khavostov is just in a very bad place. Again, if you enjoy using it, use it. If you don't enjoy using it, you probably have something that's a little better already. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Beard Grizzly. Keep your guns greased up, and I'll see you next episode. Take care. And seriously, has anybody ever had this happen to them when they're fighting Saber 2? He like jumps all around when he ends up spawning. This guy is a jerk. He is a total jerk. Yeah. Yeah, we're just gonna go out here to our... Oh. I guess my friends don't want me to play with them. Oh. Okay. Oh, look at the mini-map. Oh, here he comes again. Nope, denied.